What's up, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Means one thing, Fairway to Heaven, only on DSM Media. I am Phil Stiefel, joined by, as always, by Jason Sullivan. We got a special guest this week as we get into the 3M Open. We got Hunter coming from Omaha, Nebraska, at Huntman 10, one of the rising stars. We found him recently on Twitter. This guy really knows his PGA Tour, DFS fantasy golf stuff, and we're super excited to have him on the show. So welcome, Hunter.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. You guys have been loading me up with a lot of kind words the last couple of days, so I really appreciate that. I'm no expert at this, but I say every week I'll try and help people as best I can, try to start their lineups at least. And I always say it's up to everyone else to kind of finish them out. So no expert by any means, but I do love this a lot. So I guess I've been following it a lot for a little while now. So thanks for having me, guys.
No, we appreciate it. I mean, that's what the fantasy golf, world is all about. It's helping set the base core of your lineup, giving you little, tips one way or the other, some of the key stats and stuff like that. But Jason, we're going to start. I mean, we got to real quick, before we get into this week's 3M Open, we got to talk about the Open Championship and Collin Morikawa's huge win of the Claret Jug last week. I mean, I'll ask Jason and Hunter, both of you, this question. Is there a golfer out there that if this guy, Collin, could just putt, even average at best for the rest of his career, there's nobody that has a brighter future than Collin Morikawa, right?
No, he's probably got the highest upside, like you said. I mean, 5 wins in 42 events, including 2 majors. The guy is awesome. I mean, when he putts like he did the other day, he's unbeatable. He kind of reminded me of Justin Thomas a little bit the other day. The way that if JT putts, it's pretty much over for everybody else, and that's what happened the other day with Morikawa. And I mean, he was just so good. It was just like fairway after fairway, green after green, and he was making every single putt. So, yeah, I mean, to be 24 years old, this dude's got so much upside. I mean, nobody's gotten off to this kind of start since Tiger, so it's fun to watch. And he's such a cool guy, too. It's hard to not be a fan of him, really.
Yeah. Hunter, thoughts on Collin?
Yeah, you said that perfectly. He's definitely one of the best approach game players. Really, he's great off the tee as well. But if he could just putt, we say that every single week. He'd be, one of the best on tour. So, stat that I saw the other day, he's won in his PGA Championship debut, and he's won now in his the Open debut, which is just incredible to me. Which is actually one of the reasons why I faded him last week, because he was a debutant. So, it was a little bit bitter. Yeah, bitter watching him win. But like you said, Jason, he's such a fun guy to watch, and it's really easy to be a fan of him. So, I definitely enjoyed seeing him win.
I kind of see Collin Morikawa as a guy. I mean, nobody's ever going to go on a Tiger run. No, there's just too many good golfers out there. But I think Collin, if he can, like I said, get average consistently with his putter, he could go on a better than Jordan Spieth run, a better than a Brooks Koepka run, he could be one of probably the best golfers in this current generation of golfers coming up, because you guys talk about his putting and his game. I talk about his composure. The guy does not show any emotion on the golf course. And I think that's so key. You hit a bad shot, okay, move on to the next shot. He never gets frustrated. He never gets upset. And even when he makes a great shot, you don't see him freak out too much. So I really love his mental composure on the golf course.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. He has 5 wins already in his career. I think he's lost in a playoff 3 times too. So you're talking about a guy that could easily have 8 wins already at 24 years old. Like you said, I mean, he doesn't have a hole in his game other than putting, and he's kind of a spike putter too, where his putting will spike every few weeks, and when he does, that's pretty much a wrap for everybody else.
And weren't they talking, I don't know if it's on Golf Channel or on NBC, that he's taking some advice? I forget which Hall of Famer was speaking with him on his putting. And they were talking about, it's just thinking about it right now. I can't remember who he was working with, Marco Mira or somebody else from the major championship history in the 90s was working with him and just trying to teach him to relax with putting and not think about it too much. So he's actually seeking out the advice of people that have won many of times on the PGA Tour to get better at his one weakness. And that just, what 24-year-old, you look at Ben Simmons, a Sixer, doesn't seek out advice, on how to fix his one weakness. Collin Morikawa is one weakness, and he's out there trying to fix it and solve it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like you said, he's just an easy person to be a fan of. He's always out there trying to improve his game. There's really no question in my mind that he is the guy out of the younger guys that we've seen over the last few years. He's clearly at the top of the group there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him win, multiple majors over the next few years. It was kind of funny looking at all those odds for him, at the Masters next year, at the Open, of course. It's funny how fast people jumped on those as soon as they saw his Sunday round. So I think we'll be seeing him a lot more often on Sundays, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's not going to be a guy that's, in that 30-1 range, 25-1 range, much more ever again in major championship history. I think he's pretty much going to be a top 5, top 6 guy on every event he plays from here on out on his career.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Let's move on from that. I do have one more question on the Open and majors, but we'll close the show with that question. So we got to get into the 3M Open. This week's event, it's one of those events again that, we've had a couple of them this year that there's only happened twice, 2019 and 2020. There's not a huge course history with this event. It's played at the TPC Twin Cities. It's a little over 7,400-yard course, par 71. Matt Wolff and Michael Thompson, they're your 2 last winners. It's typically known in its 2 years as a birdie fest. So, Hunter, we're going to start with you. When you look at the 3M Open and the little bit of history there is, what kind of golfers are you looking at? What key stats are you looking at when you're trying to build your player pool?
That's a great question. So, the last few weeks we've had a lot of tournaments that are kind of like this, at least on the PGA Tour, not including the Open. The PGA Twitter community has kind of called it the Midwest Birdie Fest. And I live in the Midwest, and I can't really say that I get that many birdies on these courses, so I'm not sure where the name comes from. But no, so we head to Minnesota for TPC Twin Cities in the 3rd year now. Like you said, Thompson and Wolff are the defending champs here. I just did a little bit of digging, looking into the stats and how they kind of came to the top there. So Thompson won this event last year. He gained 7 strokes putting, which is pretty crazy, and 7 strokes in approach to overcome a half-stroke deficit off the tee. He hit about 80% of the greens, I think. I think he hit all 18 in round 1, which is actually pretty crazy. And then Wolff won the first event in 2019. He gained 9 strokes in approach, while only gaining about half a stroke putting. So, a couple of different results there. Obviously, approach is going to be really big this week. That's something that I'm throwing in my model. Morikawa tied with Bryson that year for 2nd. So we have a couple of good ball strikers in that group as well. I think that's where a lot of the models kind of leaned towards last year. And then, Thompson ended up winning with the hot putter. So, that doesn't give me a great look. We have Thompson, who's more of a short game player. He got hot with the putter. Wolff obviously is a great ball striker, but it does tell me that approach is going to be big. Just, obviously like all birdie contests like this. There's one thing, there's a lot of water throughout the course, which I'm sure you guys have seen. I think there's about 15 holes with water on the course. So I am going to look a little bit more towards accuracy, or, I'm not looking for guys that can dominate the water. I'll get to a few of them here a little bit later. But it's not like some of the other courses like the Detroit Golf Club and the John Deere Classic, where there wasn't as much water. You can get away with kind of going the rough and, at least you can avoid that penalty. So I know I'm kind of going on a long spin here, but approach is going to be big for me. I think players are going to have to hit it within 15 feet, and then obviously putting is big as always as well. So that's at least one stat that I'm really looking at this week. Jason, how do you feel about the course this week? What are some stats that you're looking at?
I thought you said it really well, actually. So it's hard because there's not a lot to go off of. You have 2 guys that are completely different kinds of players that have won this event. Matt Wolff's kind of a bomber, doesn't putt as well, and then you have Michael Thompson, who's notorious for being a good putter. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult, but yeah, like you, I'm going to look at approach, tee to green, obviously scoring, DK points. I'm going to look for that. I like your call on the driving accuracy too. I was kind of looking. I know you were on Rob's show a few weeks ago, and you guys were talking about finding that stat that not a lot of people are talking about. And I think that's a huge point. And I've been trying to do that the last few weeks. And I think driving accuracy, I'm with you on that, is going to be a stat that not many people will really put too much into it. But I think putting that into your model could help you find some guys that are good plays. Because like you said, there is a ton of water on this course. That's really the only defense of this course. It's going to be a scoring, birdie fest, basically. It's going to be, the winning score should probably be around 20 under. So at the same time, you're going to want to avoid guys that make the big number, and finding the water is going to make you have a big number. So yeah, I think you said it really well, though. It's definitely an approach week for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he stole my one. I wrote one stat down for this entire thing. Wolf and Thompson both gained over 7 strokes on approach the last 2 years with winning it. So that pretty much sums it up. And like you said, Jason, I wrote down as a question for you guys: will the winning score be over or under 20 under? Because that's really hard to imagine, because there's not a lot of tournaments throughout the year that are 20 under, 21 under. But this is one of those events that could go 20, 21, 22 under. So, while you want great, iron shot guys and driving distance and driving accuracy, you want guys that can go low. A guy that's a grinder is not necessarily a fit on a course like this. Patrick Reed, he's in the event. He's what any week we have a course that's a grinder course, Patrick Reed's at the top of the list. This week, I don't know. I'm going to get your opinions on it when we get into that 10K range. But, it's definitely somebody that's an iron player, but an iron player that can go really, really low.
Yeah, that's well said. It's going to turn into an approach contest and a putting contest. Players that can hit the green and put it in a decent distance to hit that birdie putt. It's going to be huge. Off the or around the green is normally an important stat, especially for majors. But it's not going to be as important in my models this week. If you're not hitting greens, unless you're just chipping it in every single time for birdie, you're probably not going to be in contention on Sunday. So, approach, putting, 2 big stats for us this week.
All right, well, let's dive into the DraftKings, price breakdown. We always start, Hunter, with the 10K and above. We look at those guys first, and we go down per price tier on this show. This week, there's only 4 guys priced 10K and above on DraftKings. You got Dustin Johnson leading the way, no surprise, at 11-3. You got Louis Oosthuizen, Mr. Brian, his favorite guy. He put a lot of money on him last week. I just fell a little bit short last week. You got 5th place Finau. Unfortunately, still no graphic for my 5th place Finau this week. Hunter, we have this thing called 5th place Finau on this show, and I was selling merch, but that was with my previous network. I haven't gotten the merch moved over to this network, so no logos on the screen for 5th place Finau. And then you got Patrick Reed.
It's similar to Top 10 Tony, right?
What's that?
It's similar to Top 10 Tony, right?
Yeah, but Top 10 Tony means he can win an event. 5th place Finau means he's not going to finish better than 5th place. And I have no faith in Finau winning an event. And anytime – so, Hunter, just a little back knowledge. I've been anti-Finau for the entire season because anytime I play him or bet him, he stinks. And then the 1 week I bet Max Homa to win, okay, and he goes into a playoff with Tony Finau, and Max Homa hits his playoff shot behind a tree, and I cash out. And then Tony Finau screws up the rest of the thing, and Max Homa still wins the playoff. So Finau finds a way to screw me every single week, whether I'm playing him or not. So it's 5th place Finau, and that's it.
That's the, I guess, best and worst part about PGA DFS. We all have those 2 or 3 guys, and I'll get to one here in a bit, that are just on a crap list.
Yeah. I'm trying to take one off the list, and this week's a week to do it, maybe. So Hunter, 4 guys, 10K and above. Are any of these guys definite surefire plays, or guys are going to make somewhat of an appearance in your player pool? Or, in my opinion, I'm not playing much in the 10K range this week at all.
Yeah, so I told you guys before we went live, I feel like we all have our 7 to 8K guys that, are kind of our favorites this week, that we feel almost better about than these 10K guys up top. And I don't know if that's because a lot of them are coming off of a long weekend at the Open. Patrick Reed missed the cut, but they're just not getting a whole lot of love, I guess. Or maybe people just don't know what to do, and I'm probably one of them. DJ, in my opinion, is one that hasn't been getting a lot of talk, just from the podcasts I've been listening to and just, the articles I've been reading. He's got 4 straight top 25 finishes, though, and he's coming off of a strong, finish at the Open last weekend. And I read a quote from him that he said he's feeling good. His shots are, coming along a lot better, and he's ready to contend or at least play here this weekend. So I'm not worried about any, withdrawal issue with DJ this weekend. And I think he actually is motivated to, come out here and actually win. He shot the 78 here last year, right? And then he withdrew after 1 round, but he also went on that crazy run after doing so at the same, kind of time of year. He won 3 events after that, as well as 2 runner-ups in that time span. And he's also 15th in FedEx points right now. And I think he did win that tournament last year to win all that money for the FedEx Championship. So I think he's a little bit motivated, for that reason. I think he is kind of looking to win this year, or this tournament. I mean, I will look to have some DJ exposure in my lineups. How about the rest of this 10K range? Anyone, catch your eye, Jason?
Honestly, for me, it's DJ too. I don't play Finau typically if he's over 10K. That's just kind of like a rule that I have set in stone pretty much. So I'm probably not going to play him. I don't love Patrick Reed on this course. I know I've heard him get talked up quite a bit today, but he's not in very good form. It's not just the fact that he's a grinder, but he hasn't been playing all that well. He's missed an awful lot of cuts and a lot more than Patrick Reed normally misses recently. So yeah. I think I'm probably, if I play anybody in this range, it's going to be DJ for sure. He's just the class of the field. And like you said, he's due for a run. He's been kind of down for DJ, but he's finishing top 25 every week. He kind of quietly had a T8 last week. Nobody really even talked about him the entire week. I think I only saw a few shots of his on the tournament. But, I mean, as far as the stat model goes, he's 3rd tee to green, 1st in birdie or better, 1st in DK points over the last 50 rounds. So he fits this course perfectly. He fits a lot of courses perfectly. And, I mean, obviously, he's much better than everybody else in this field. So if he gets it going, he's definitely, worth a play this week. And at 11.3, that price doesn't really break you either. So I think that's a really fair price for him.
So, yeah, I'm on board with you guys. DJ is the only guy above. He'll be in my player pool. He might not be my top used guy. He might not be in 60% of my lineups because of being 11.3. And I never let anybody over 11K be in more than 40% of my lineups. It just handcuffs you too much in lineups. But the rest of the guys, Patrick Reed, again, he's a grinder, not a birdie fest guy. I mean, Tony Finau, he was literally playing awful golf before the Open. But on the flip side of the equation, he always plays well at the Open. So that kind of, I'm not taking into account his top 15th finish last week because that's just par course for Tony Finau at the Open. And Louis Oosthuizen, I mean, I know he has played some amazing golf this year, but eventually he's going to have a hiccup. He's got to. And he's going to, out of anybody having an Open hangover, it's got to be Louis Oosthuizen and how he just finished it out and just, he was so close again to another major. I just think that this is the week that maybe he's just not motivated or focused. So Dustin Johnson's the only guy I'm playing out of those top 4. And that I'm more confident in that, choice there than ever before in that top tier price range.
You know what scares me too this week about Louis is that obviously we know he WDs all the time in regular events. He doesn't do it in majors, obviously, but he always shows up in majors. But I feel like coming off that, like you said, coming off the Open where a pretty disappointing finish for him, I could see him coming out in the first round or two and not playing well and WDing. But at the same time, I've heard a lot of people talk him up today, especially because I think his ownership's at 8%. So you're looking for a spark. And the guy, I think he's like 3rd in DK points for the year. So he's obviously a great player, but I just worry about him,
I think a lot of his points come from his finishing position, not from birdies and eagles. Because I'm actually looking at his last 10 events. So 3rd at the Open, -11. The week before at the BMW or his last event, he finished -6. The U.S. Open, 2nd place, -5. -1 at the Memorial. -4 at the PGA Championship. -9 at the Valspar. So he does not shoot. So you have to go back to the Waste Management Phoenix Open in February. That was -14. That's the last time he passed 12 under par in an event. So when you need to shoot a 20 under round, Louis Oosthuizen isn't that type of guy that's going to win a 20 under, a 19 under type of event. And when you're what's 10-9, you need him to win at 10-9.
That's actually the most expensive.
Be in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's actually the most expensive price he's ever been on DraftKings too. I heard that today. Wow. So that's pretty crazy price.
No, that's a good point. And Phil, you were talking about, I agree with you on Reed. I won't be playing him this weekend for the reason that you said. He's a grinder. I don't see him shooting as 20 this weekend. And same thing for Louis. And it's not just because he hasn't shot that low, but he hasn't even really been in tournaments that are birdie fest like this, where you have to, have that aggressive mindset, going at the tee every single time. Not that he can't do that, but he's just been, playing in majors and, tournaments like the Memorial, for example, recently. So one more guy in this range, Tony Finau, you might have to close your ears here, Phil. I think he's a solid cash game play this week. I think he's coming in with a decent amount of ownership. He had a decent finish last week at the Open with the 15th. He also had T23 and T3 in his, the only 2 events here. So, I think he's a safe play. At 10-4, I think he is, 10-7. Yeah, pretty expensive there. Yeah, he definitely does take a lot of money away from your salary there, or your, just your lineup. So I probably won't be getting to him a whole lot in GPPs. DJ is the one for me up here.
I don't even typically go for the 11K guys. I just try to stay away from them because DFS, it's just such a different ballgame than betting it outright. And you really handcuff yourself. But I am really confident in DJ compared to Finau, where I just don't think the price is worth the risk with Tony Finau outside the Open and his inconsistent play.
Yeah, and Finau's betting numbers weren't even that good, if I'm correct.
No.
This weekend. Yeah,
I've made my 6 bets for the week already. He is not on my betting card. I will guarantee that.
No, that's which is good.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. All right, let's move into this 9K range again.
Yep.
Small list of names. Some guys that are not normally in the 9K range, some that are normally in it. But you got Sergio Garcia, 9,900. You got Matt Wolff, former champion here, 97. Cameron Tringali, Grillo, Davis, Watson, and McIntyre. That's our list. Again, Hunter, you're the guest. You get to go first. What's your favorite play in this 9K range? And hopefully it's one of mine, so I feel better about myself.
Yeah. So I got a few names written down here. I'll just barely speak on Sergio. He's great off the tee and approach. He's coming off at 3 top 20s, with 2 of them being majors. He won at the Sanderson at, I think, -19, so he can shoot low if he needs to. I'm going to try and, wait to see a better ownership number on him, likely tomorrow, before I decide what to do with in DFS. But I like Matthew Wolff here this week. He won here in 2019, obviously. He was also T12 last year. I know he's been really volatile the last couple of months, but I think he just plays well on on courses that he's comfortable on. And clearly this would be one since he won his first event here in 2019. He's talked about his mental health issues, and I have no problems with that. But I think this is a great place to kind of get it back right. So I do like Matthew Wolff a lot at the top here. I'm hoping that he comes in at decent ownership. Again, I'm waiting for tomorrow to kind of decide what
are your projections on ownership for Matt Wolff there, Jason?
I haven't seen anything. Oh, sorry.
I got 14% right now.
All right.
According to Fantasy National.
Yeah. I mean, 14%. I could deal with 14% for Matt Wolff.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I just, again, Matt Wolff is the captain of the DTM Dead to Me list. And I tried to pull him off it. And this is a week that I feel confident pulling him off this list.
Yeah. Like I said, I think he's at places that he feels comfortable on, that he's confident at. I think he's a great play. He showed out. What was it, the Rocket Mortgage? I think he had a great first round.
Yep.
Didn't really show up too well after that, but that was another course that he finished well at in the past, and that was coming off of his good performance at the U.S. Open, if I'm correct. So
he shot a 67 the first round at the Rocket Mortgage, and that's something we haven't addressed yet. That everything I've read is the best course comparison and tournament comparison is the Rocket Mortgage. So there's a lot of correlation between the 3M and the Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah. Both birdie fests, so
absolutely.
What's interesting too about Matt Wolff is that he's best on super hard courses and really easy courses. Like it's like the in between courses that kind of give him fits. Like he played really well at Rocket Mortgage last year too. So he's definitely, I like him a lot too. He's 8th in birdie or better in this field, 6th in approach. Obviously, we know he could score when he's on. Obviously, with him, it seems like a mental thing, which you feel bad for the guy, but he's definitely a capable golfer. He's in the same. Obviously, he's not Morikawa level, but he's in that same tier of those young guys. I think that could end up taking a big step forward. So I like him a lot. This range for me is actually a range of guys that I really like that I never usually like, which is weird. You kind of mentioned Sergio. I like Sergio a lot this week. 4th tee to green, 10th in birdie or better, 8th in DK points. He's been in good form, like you said. I think I'm going to start a lot of lineups with Sergio, which kind of scares me to death, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then another guy that I said I would never play again in DFS, I lied. 9,300, Emiliano Grillo. 2nd in birdie or better, 2nd in approach, and 6th in DK points. He's been playing really good golf lately, and I feel like, especially with his approach game, I feel like he sets up really good for this course. Obviously, he can't putt at all, but I I don't know. I feel like he could be up there this week for sure. I don't know if he can win. That's my one kind of knock on him, but I think I'm going to play a lot of both those guys this week.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Hunter, on Grillo? Because Grillo is not – he wasn't even on my maybe list this week.
Yeah, he's burnt me a few times in the last couple of tournaments. But I do think this could be a tournament where, great putting isn't a necessity. Like I said, Matt Wolff had negative, strokes gained putting. When he won in 2019, Morikawa was second. I didn't get a great number on him, but we all know his woes putting. Yeah, this could be a week to maybe try out some players that are great on approach, but, if they just have a decent round putting, I know we say that for a lot of guys, obviously. Yeah, Grillo could be a great play. Just the salary kind of scares me a little bit.
Yes, 9,300 is rough.
Well, so the salary concerns is why I kind of like Cameron Tringali, because 9,500 for Cameron Tringali is an insane price. But I think a lot of people are going to be scared of that price. The guy finished third last year at this event, 42nd the year before. He's had a great season, 4 of his last 5 cuts made. 14th at the Rocket Mortgage, a comparable tournament. He also has a couple top 10s earlier in the season. I think that price, I don't know, Jason, what your percentages list Tringali as, but I feel like that price might scare people off of Tringali. And I think he might be almost, while Wolff is on my list, Tringali might be a smarter play over Wolff this week on the prices.
So I have him at 14% also.
Oh, wow.
So
I really wouldn't have thought they'd been that close together, the two of them.
He's been playing, like you said, though, he's been playing really good golf. I had him in a lot of my lineups last week, including the Millie Maker, and he paid off. I think he was a T26 last week. So, yeah, he's a kind of an underrated golfer across the board. I think people don't realize the sticker shock 100% is there, but I think people don't realize how solid he is across the board. I mean, 11th tee to green, 3rd birdie or better, 9th in putting. So he kind of does everything. He scores, 5th in DK points too. So he puts up a lot of points, and he can kind of do it in all the areas that we're looking for this week. So I think that's a pretty solid play this week too. I could see, to be honest with you, I know Fantasy National says 14%. I could see his ownership creeping to like 17 or 18.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was just hoping the sticker shock would scare people away. A guy you're used to spending $7K or $7,500 on, pricing that mid to upper 9K, kind of scare people a little bit. So there's some other names in this range I'd love to get your guys' opinion on. I know you love Robert McIntyre, Jason, and Bubba Watson, who has had an inconsistent but really good season as of recent. Had a withdrawal from the Open, did not play in the Open, finished 6th at the Rocket Mortgage. Guys, a guy, I'm not sure how to take the having to withdraw from the Open for COVID reasons and then having to sit out and watch that major from home, how that motivates or hurts a player. And that's where my concern with Bubba is, because on paper, if you don't take out if you take the Open out of the equation, Bubba Watson should be a surefire play this week. But on the flip side of the equation, I'm kind of concerned.
Yeah, that's a great point. On paper, he looks really good. I have him here as first in birdie or better percentage and third off the tee in this field in the last 24 rounds. I think he's a solid play. Now, his motivation, that's a great point. Going into this, I kind of liked that he had this time off so he could, rest or at least kind of prep himself, for this birdie fest and not get used to the, I guess we could say, tough conditions that we saw at the Open last week. I do like Bubba this week. I am going to probably have him in my pool. Jason, I'd love to see an ownership percentage on him as well. And what are your thoughts on Bobby Mack as he comes over on the PGA Tour again?
So, first of all, we have Bubba at 14%, 14.4. And then McIntyre
is at 14%, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw the Bobby Mack thing. He said, I don't know if he said it on Twitter or in person, but he said that he wants to be called Robert, not Bobby. And everybody's just like, yeah, no, it's Bobby Mack for sure. Sorry, bud.
I didn't see that, but that makes sense why he just called him Bobby Mack.
So it was funny. Phil and I were texting back and forth about him last week, freaking out that he was going to miss the cut. And I think he ended up finishing like 12th or something, or 16th or something, or somewhere around there. Like he had a really good
right
week.
On the number and finished T8 last week.
And he's a really solid golfer.
67 on the weekend.
Yeah, he's really solid. I like him a lot. He's just like one of my irrational loves in DFS, and he's kind of torn it up on the Euro Tour this year. I just wonder about him in a birdie fest I feel more comfortable with him personally in a field like the Open or, a more difficult course. So I don't know if I'm going to have a ton of him this week. I was actually interested in what you guys said about Bubba too. He's kind of on the fence for me about, I feel like he fits his course, but like Hunter said, Bubba's kind of a finicky, weird, guy that we don't know if he's going to care this week. We don't know if he's going to, show up the day before and not really give a crap. Like, we don't really know. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards not playing either one of those guys right now, but if it was going to be one of those two, I think it'd be Bubba.
Bringing up what you said about McIntyre, Bobby, as we're not going to call him forever. I'm going to call him Bobby from here on out. -7 at the Open, -11, +5 at the U.S. Open, even though he made the cut, -7, +5 at the PGA Championship. He's made all these cuts, but he's only got one round above 10 under in his last 10 events. And he's 9 out of 10 cuts made. So that whole he's more in that Patrick Reed grinder category versus the Birdie Fest category. So it makes a lot of sense there, what you're saying about him.
Yeah, well said. Should we move down to the 8K range now?
Yeah, let's get into the 8K range. It's actually a packed range. Obviously led off by Mr. Ricky Fowler. You got Keegan Bradley, Stuart Singh, Kaziri, Herbert, McNeely, Fratelli, Schwartzel, Luke List, and Gary Woodland. We're going to switch it up, Hunter. I know you're the guest. We're going to wait. We'll let Jason go first this time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Jason,
my favorite play in this range. So my favorite play in this range is a guy that I do not like as a golfer. I do not care for him as a person. But Keegan Bradley, 8,800. First to tee to green, first in approach, and in pretty good form. He's having one of the better seasons he's ever had. So he missed the cut last week, but he was T14 at the Rocket Mortgage. So I like him. I feel like with his approach game on this course, I feel like he could really eat it up. And obviously we know he's another one of those team no-putt guys. But I feel like at 8,800, I don't think he could win, but I think a top 10 is definitely in the card. So he's probably my favorite in this range. I think the most interesting play in this range is Ricky. I don't know 100% if I'm going to play him or not, but I feel like it's a good course fit. He's starting to play a little bit better golf. He made the cut last week, didn't really do anything, but I don't know. I want to get you guys' opinion on Ricky this week.
I put Ricky in my maybe list. Keegan didn't make either of my list because I know he played well at the Rocket Mortgage, but he's missed 3 of his last 4 cuts outside of the Rocket Mortgage. True. But Ricky was somebody I was waiting to hear what you guys said, and you guys kind of say the same thing. Wait until we hear what we say. So, Hunter, what are your thoughts on Ricky and Keegan?
Yeah, no, Phil, I know you called Ricky your comeback player of the year last week.
I didn't say comeback player of the year. I said he's having a comeback player of the year type season. Let's not get too out of control.
He played well twice, all right?
Yeah, he's got 2 good events this year.
It's true. So he's made 4 of his last 5 cuts. 2 of them were majors, and that's about the list that I have of good things to say about him. It seems like he's his flat stick, the thing that he's known for being good at, it seems like that's coming around a little bit. But if he doesn't have that, if you don't have your strength, like to put it there, it's hard for me to feel confident in him. And Keegan's another guy that's very similar to Griot. If he could just putt, he'd be one of the best players on tour. Right. He's a great approach player, so he's obviously going to pop in a lot of models. It just, really depends how well he putts this weekend. So, those are going to be 2 solid plays in my opinion. 2 veteran players that, they're going to play smart golf, which I think is, I know this is a birdie fest, but you do still need to play smart this weekend. Know where the water's at. Should I go for it distance-wise, or should I just kind of lay it up here and play it smart? So, experience does matter to an extent here, I believe. Stuart Sink is one guy that I've just been on a long time here. I had him back in my pool back when he won. I forgot what tournament it was back in April, I believe.
RBC.
He hit, yeah. So he hit, I think like -22 that weekend. So it's clear that he can go that low to win. He's a great ball striker. He gained over 2 strokes off the tee and an approach over his last 5 events. He doesn't really need his his really bad stat around the green this weekend, because I think he's just going to be hitting those greens most of the time. So Stuart Sink, it really is tough to see him at 8,700, especially after he sunk a lot of my lineups last weekend with his round 2 there. I'd love to see the shot tracer on what really caused all of that.
I don't want to see it. I do not want to see it anymore. Because literally, I had him in 4 or 5 of my 8 lineups last week, including both of my Millie makers. And I was literally 5 of 6 in every single one of those lineups because of Stuart Sink missing the cut. And it was all because of on this Friday round. So Sink is off the board for me, 100%. Yeah. I need a 1-week Sink break for sure.
He's a guy.
You know how I feel about Stewie Sink. I love Stewie Sink. So
do I.
He's in my player pool.
And I love him that he's out there with his son on his bag, having a great time. It's just he's kind of in that Lee Westwood range for me. I love seeing him have a good time on tour, rejuvenate it. But man, last week really broke my heart. So he kind of needs to have a little timeout in my mind.
DTM.
Yeah, he was one. Sorry, he was one that I was feeling so confident about. You know, I wanted to tweet out how great of a pick he was on Thursday, and I'm glad I
know. Don't ever tweet anything out ahead of time because I'll tell you, it never works in your favor. I get burned every day on that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm going to throw some other names because I'm not super high on Fowler, Bradley. They were on my maybe list. I'm not really sold and confident in them. Maybe they get sprinkled in 1 or 2 lineups, but I'm more looking at the bottom half of the 8K range. I love Maverick McNeely. I love Charles Schwartzel, and I love Luke List. And I'm going to go to Schwartzel first at 8,200. He kind of is, and this is a really odd way to say it, but the poor man Louis Oosthuizen. He's basically having the same type of revival as Louis, but just not with as much success. And, you know, I mean, the guy's played some really – I mean, last week he didn't play at the Open. He went to Barbasol instead. You know, 14 under, 26th place. He's made 9 of his last 10 cuts. You know, the guy's playing really good golf. And at 8,200, you know, a T20, T15, he pays off his value most likely to me.
Yeah, I don't hate that play either.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I don't hate that play either. You mentioned Luke List. I like List a little bit better just because of the form he's in right now. He's played, obviously, easy events. The Barbasol, he was 5th, and John Deere, he was 4th. So, obviously, not great fields, not, you know, super tough golf courses, but I feel like this is kind of a similar style golf course. So, I mean, he's 5th tee to green, 12th birdie or better, 18th in approach over the last 50. So, obviously, we know he could score another. I mean, this is kind of, I'm going to make myself sick this week playing these guys, but my team's pretty much not going to be able to putt at all this week, and I'm just going to hope for the best with the ball strikers. So, we know that List fits that same category as Bradley and Brio for sure.
No, I love Luke List just as much, just like for all the reasons you said there. Thoughts on Charles Schwartzel, Luke List, or Maverick McNeely?
I think Charles would be a pretty safe play. I don't, expect to see him top 5 in this event by any means, but like you said, I think he's pretty safe to make the cut. And it was nice to see him, shoot decently low last week at the Barbasol, so that gives me confidence that he can, shoot low again this week. Luke List and McNeely are actually 2 people that I had written down that I'd love to ask you guys about. Luke List, he looks great off the tee, distance and tee to green. Like you said, Jason, if he can putt, he just kind of goes along in that group there. And McNeely, he's got 4 top 30s in his last 4 events, I believe, and he has an 18th last week at the John Deere Classic. Another guy that can kind of shoot low. It wasn't until recently that I learned that his dad is super rich and a billionaire.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Speaking of the motivation factor, he's not really out there for the money by any means. He's clearly there to just show that he can, compete on the PGA Tour. So, that's something that I always kind of throw as a theory out. But those are 2 guys that I haven't quite made my mind up yet. They're a little more expensive than some guys that I might like a little bit more, or at least the same in the 7K range. We'll kind of get to them here in a second. But yeah, 2 question marks at least for those 2 on me. I'll probably make up my mind more tomorrow.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm looking at I've got my temporary player pool here. It's like my definites and my maybes. Do the show, read some more, figure it out. And I've got 17 players in my guaranteed player pool. But the weird thing is 8 of those 17 are in the next category, the 7,400 to 7,900 range. Literally 8 of them are in that range because I only like McNeely, Schwartz, List. They're the only 3 8K guys I even would consider. McIntyre, Tringali, Wolf, only DJ. Everything is in my mind this week. The 7K range is where you have a lot to decipher and figure out which ones to play. But the money's going to be made this week in picking the right 7K guys.
Well, I think that's a good point, too. The 3 guys we just talked about in the 8K, I mean, would you rather have those three guys or Lebiota, Gim, and Lanto Griffin? I mean, those guys are in the 7Ks, and I think
they're my three favorite plays.
Yeah,
in the
arguably all three of those guys are better than all three of the guys in the 8K range. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into that range. You already mentioned Gim, Lanto, Lebiota. Do you want to just start, Jason, since you just mentioned those names? Is there one that's your favorite in that upper 7K range?
Yeah, mine's actually Lanto this week. I feel like he's playing a lot better golf. He's 18th tee to green and 17th in approach. I just feel like he kind of went into a little bit of a slump this week, and I feel like of those three, he's going to be by far the least owned. And like I said, he's playing good golf. Lebiota to me seems like extremely underpriced in this whole slate in general. I feel like he's been so good. Obviously, he's done a lot with the putter, which makes you worry at some point. Regression is going to come in that. But 3 top 10s in his last 3 events. I mean, it's pretty hard to argue with that. And the dude's just playing awesome golf right now. So I don't know how you don't play Lebiota, but at the same time, I feel like he's going to be super highly owned.
And on top of the Lebiota, I think he's going to be highly owned because of the price tag. But he also scores. You said 3 top 10s, but let's go back to the last 5 events he played. He's got a -16, a -17, and a -15 in his last 5 events. So the guy is scoring in the Birdie Fest on top of, everything else. So, even if he's at 7,900 at 18%, 17%, does that seem like a number that would make you feel comfortable playing a guy like him? Because he could literally finish top 5, top 6 this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him above 20%. He's a guy that I kind of grouped him with Seamus Power on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and I think when people saw Power win this last weekend, they thought why can't Hank win this weekend? He's been playing great, 4th at the Rocket Mortgage, 5th at the Travelers. He led the field in putting in the last 3 events. And he's 2 for 2 actually and made cuts here, I believe, in the last 2 events here. So, Hank could be just sweet. So Hank, is just one that we could, we'll look back, and if he wins, you'll be really upset at yourself if you didn't play him. I think the only reason to fade him is just for those ownership reasons.
Yeah, he finished 26th last year and 34th the year before that in this event. So he's one of the few players that have played both years and made the cut both years as well.
Okay, yeah, and that's rare for, I guess, only 2 events, but
yeah. Any other names in this range that you like a lot of?
So you mentioned Doug Gim. A lot of these guys I think are going to be really, really popular. So, all the people watching this right now, make sure that if you're playing, 3 of these guys, you're getting different in different places in your lineups. So yeah, Doug Gim is someone I think will have some decent ownership behind him. He's top 25 in tee to green this year, and he made 4 of the last 5 cuts, including a T18 last year. Another one of the guys that made the cut last year. A guy up in the same range there is Chris Kirk, who I think is going to be a guy on my list of pivots there. He's got some solid Arnold Palmer experience. He won at TPC Boston in 2014. I know it's a while ago, but he hasn't missed a cut there either. He has 5 top 20s at Bay Hill, which is also another Palmer design, if I'm correct on that. So he made the cut here last year. I think he's going to come at a solid ownership discount compared to the other 2 guys there in that price tag. So I'll look to have Chris Kirk in my player pool. Johnny Vegas is another one that's getting a lot of love this week. PGA Tout had him in his very first article, so I think that kind of boosted up some of his ownership. I think he should be, like $1,000 more. He was, at least 8K. I think he was 8K a couple weeks ago. So I think he should at least be more than that. He had a solid performance there. Ranks first and off the tee. He's normally known as a great driver. But he's actually improved his approach game a lot over the last couple of tournaments. So, I'll look to see Johnny Vegas in contention possibly. I just really hate the ownership that he's coming in at right now.
Yeah.
Are there any, solid pivots that you guys are seeing? Phil, who do you like in this range?
Well, a couple names I like still that we haven't talked in the 74, 75 and above. First off, Troy Merritt. I don't think I need to really explain him. I mean, he's played really good golf lately. He's definitely a guy that's been, I know he missed the cut the last 2 weeks, but before that, Rocket Mortgage, comparable course, T2, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 made cuts in a row before his last 2 missed cuts. So I'm high on Troy Merritt this week. Joel Dahman as well. Charles Howell. I know he's had an inconsistent season. He's in an inconsistent career for the most part. But there's certain guys we talked about with Matt Wolff. They like certain types of courses. This course seems to fit Charles Howell. I know it's only two years, but he's got a 3rd place and a 23rd place finish at this event the last 2 years. And he's a guy one of those guys that when they get comfortable somewhere, they always do well. And I kind of feel like Charles Howell at 7,700, he's going to have a pretty low ownership percentage because he's missed a couple cuts lately. And people are going to forget the fact that he always plays consistently at the same 3 or 4 courses. And this is one of those courses. So it's a guy that people should really stack up on, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good call for sure. I have a couple other guys that I think are going to be lower owned in this range. Patrick Rogers is a guy that I love to play in DFS. He's trending in the right direction. T41, T23, and T5 in his last 3 events. T5 obviously last week at the Barbasol. So I like him a lot this week. Brian Stewart at the bottom of this price range. T8 and a T15 in his last 2 events. So he's playing good golf too. He's typically never really highly owned, and he's a guy that he's never going to win the golf tournament, but you could see a top 20 for sure. So I like that a lot. And then my guy, Mark Hubbard at the bottom, T20 and T41 in his last 2 events. If he gets it going, I think with the putter at all, which I think he's capable of doing, I could see a top 10 for him. So I really like Mark Hubbard this week too.
Yeah, I'll throw a couple other names and see what you think of them, Hunter, because they're names that are on my questionable list. Obviously, Steve Stricker, Ryder Cup captain, defending champion, Michael Thompson. Adam Schenk, guy I really liked a lot this year. I love his form in his game. And where's the other name on this list here? Kyle Stanley. It's another name that I keep looking at, and my eyes just keep going back to this week.
Yeah, so Kyle Stanley would fit perfectly in your can't putt lineup there, Jason.
Yeah,
He's known as a pretty bad putter, but he's made 7 of the last 8 cuts. He's also top 10 in ball striking and tee to green in the last 16 rounds of this field. And he was also T32 last year, so kind of a good mixture of stats to go off of with him. And I think he's only 7,300, so I think he's a solid play. Yeah, you mentioned Adam Schenk. He's above average off the tee, approach, and putting. He's not great in all 3 of those, but those are the 3 main stats that, I'm looking for, I guess, at this event, in this Birdie Fest. Brandon Haggy is someone that I kind of have my eye on a little bit. He's been in contention the last couple of weeks. He's just had one horrible round that has just set him back in this field. And, you really can't shoot above par and expect to win, in these kind of events. That's just going to set you back so far. And one other guy I'd love to ask you guys, what's your opinion on someone who, is kind of decent at this time last year. He really fell off in the wagon wheel a little bit recently, except last 2 events ago at the John Deere Classic. What do you guys think of Cameron Champ this weekend?
I kind of felt like somebody was going to ask about Cameron Champ this week. Yeah, I'm off on Cameron Champ. It's just the consistency. I just don't know. I know he did well with the John Deere, but five missed cuts in a row before that. I just can't get past it personally.
So I actually don't mind it this week. I know he had a good event his last time. He's obviously boomer bust. We know that. But I feel like he's really streaky. He's almost like a poor man's Matt Wolff in a way. He's streaky. When he plays good golf, he could pop one week and have a top 10. So I feel like at that price point, I could see he has a high upside. So obviously he kind of fits the team no putt too. So, but I could see him this week, especially when he starts to play a little bit better like he did last week. So, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it would have been. But yeah, I don't mind that play.
Yeah, I was going to say the name that at the bottom there, also at 7,100, like Cameron Champ. Champ, if he was 67, 6,600, maybe I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. But when 7,100, I look at Pat Perez. He's in the top 25 in shots gained approach, greens and regulation, birdies are better, putting on bent grass. He checks a lot of marks. And if I'm going to spend 7,100 on somebody, it's going to be Pat Perez over Cameron Champ, in my opinion.
I think that's
fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into building lineups and stuff like that, guys, any 6K range guys, because there's actually 2 or 3 that I like. Any of the 6K range guys that you guys like this week? Hunter, you want to go first there?
Yeah. So I'll save Garnett for you.
You can say Garnett because I got plenty of them on this list.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like to call him the Troy Merritt light. He pops about 3 times. He pops about 3 times a year. You know, you just got to really guess when those 3 times are. So I think he'll be a solid play this weekend. Well, who knows? You know, we're just looking in this range. We're looking for guys that can, you know, pop, like I said. So Cameron Percy, actually, he's been a little more consistent than some of the guys down here. He's made 4 straight cuts. I had him at the John Deere Classic a couple weeks ago, and he had a T11. He had a really great Sunday to carry him up the leaderboard that day. He's gained strokes, excuse me, in approach over the last few events as well. I mean, at 6,800, it really just unlocks a lot up for you up top. And I can't, you know, go out of this range without mentioning KH Lee, the TPC.
There you go.
You know, the dog, the TPC contest. I think he's played in, I read, 6 different TPC courses, and he's made the cut in all 6. Obviously, had that win there.
Written right there on my notes, circling and everything. 6 for 6 on TBC courses.
You know what, too? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think his wife just had a baby, so he will have the baby swag factor also.
That's correct. That is another good note there.
The amount of times that I've heard the father perspective theory for golfers this golf season, if I had a beer for that, for every time I heard that, I'd be feeling pretty good.
Oh, man. Agree, disagree, Jason? Any other guys that you got there?
Yeah, no. Garnett, same thing. Garnett has like that weird spot in my heart. Like one time I think I won a lot of money because of him, or not because of him, but he was in the lineup. So I have like a soft spot in my heart for him always. A couple guys that have been, it kind of makes me want to vomit even saying it, but Kevin Tway has been really good in his last 3 events. T14, T23, and T26 in his last 3 events. I don't even think he has his PGA Tour card anymore. So interesting. Obviously he's motivated. Is he going to win? No, but could he finish in the top 25? Maybe. Duffner, your guy too. Big Daddy Duff. T18 and T26 in his last 2. So not playing terrible. Obviously not that great of a golfer. It's slim pickings down in this range. I'm going to try to avoid the 6K.
I got KH Lee, like you guys. And Bryce Garnett. Garnett's on my definite list right from the get-go. Kadara or Kadaria or whatever you say his name is. However you say his name. I don't know why, but he sticks out. He's a guy that can go low in these kind of events, especially first-round leader. I have a KH Lee and a Kadara first-round leader bet on both of them. Let me see. Where's my list here? KH Lee was 90-1. Kadara was 120-1 on first-round leader. So I got both those bets already locked in. I got a couple other names here, just completely random. Again, these aren't names you should be playing. Maybe a name you consider, maybe. Max Gellerman. He's made 5 of his last 7 cuts, including a T41 at the Rocket Mortgage, a comparable course. And where was my other guy on my list? I really got to do a better job organizing my notes some weeks here. Let's see. I don't even know how to say his name. Gillick?
Mike Gillick?
Yeah. Gillick. He's got quite a few cuts made recently, including, again, a cut made at the Rocket Mortgage. Again, these guys, 61 and 6,300. You probably shouldn't use them. But if you want to go with a lineup with Dustin Johnson and Tony Finau, or Dustin Johnson and Matt Wolff, you might need a cheap guy to bounce out the middle of your lineup. So Gellerman and Gillick, whatever his name is, however you say it, they're 2 guys super cheap that save you a lot of money. So even if they make the cut, that's all you need. That's all you need at 6,300. Made cut. You don't even need a made cut. You can still, even if they just miss the cut on the number, it normally means that they're going to get enough points there where it's worth it if you're getting all your other 5 for 6 and all. But as Jason said, stay away from the 6K range as much as possible.
Agreed.
That 7K range is just way too loaded.
Yeah.
Make some lineups
down there.
All right. So, Hunter, what we do on this show, we build lineups and we compete against each other. So that's what we're going to do now. So Jason's the note taker. Jason is going to take the notes on our lineups, and he's going to remind us after the show.
That's right.
You know what we're going to
do. I enter everybody's lineup into a contest as well. So no pressure.
I don't do that because I don't trust your lineups and all. Even though you whooped my ass, I was beating you for 3 days of the Open last week, and then Sunday I fell to pieces. So
that's right.
That's what happens when you have a 4-6 versus a 5-6. But Hunter, you get to go first as the guest. You get to build an optimal lineup right here on the air.
I appreciate it. So, got to ask 2 questions. Are we allowed to take the same guys?
Yeah, we can take the same guys.
Okay. And then
last week we happened to end up with 6 different guys, each of us. But yeah, there's always normally a 1 or 2 player overlap with us.
No, that's totally fine. So am I just doing my full lineup right here?
Yeah. What lineup you think is going to beat what lineup we build?
Okay. So I'm going to start with DJ up top. Like I said at the top of the show, I just think he's got a solid, game going right now. I'm going to go to Bubba next at the 9-1 range there. It's going to give me about
7,400 left.
74 left. So I'm going to go Kyle Stanley next.
Okay, I like that.
And let's go Johnny Vegas next.
Vegas.
And gosh, I need
that puts you at 7,400 with 2 spots left to go.
So let's go with kind of my sleeper for the week. I'll tweet about him tomorrow a little bit. Brennan Hagee is going to be my sleeper for the week at 7,200, and that will allow me to get up to Patrick Rogers at 76 to kind of round this out.
It's a very solid lineup. I don't normally build or use our lineups on this show and the other ones. That might be a lineup that I use because, I think you got a little bit of everything. You got the top strong players. You got great value in that 7K range. You didn't dip into the 6K range, which is scary. I think that's a really strong lineup right there. Jason, you got that written down?
Yes, sir. Not just written down, entered into a contest.
Entered. Well, you got to send it to me because I'm not taking notes today. My note paper is all over the place tonight. All right, so you're up,
next.
Jason.
No, you go next.
You want me to go next?
Yep.
Oh, man. All right, so I'll go next. I'm going to start cheaper. I'm going to start with Lanto Griffin. I'm gonna go. Let's see here. We'll go Joel Damon next. I'm liking him. And since it's just the 3 of us, I'll go Lebioda as well. I'm not worried about ownership percentages right now. Let's see. We'll go Lebioda, and we're gonna go Shank, and we're gonna build 4 straight 7K guys here. Leaves me 97.5. Man, let's see here. Where are we gonna go here? Let's see here. You gotta really think. We're just gonna go Wolf and Tringali. We're just gonna build it with the strongest guys I think this week, and not worry about ownership percentages or anything like that. So there's my lineup: Griffin, Damon, Lebioda, Shank, Wolf, and Tringali.
Solid.
Did you write that down? Because I'm not writing even my own lineup down.
It's already entered, bro.
There we go. Got it. All right, Jason.
All right, time for the winning lineup. All right.
The winning lineup. Let's see you go 2 for 2.
I'm going to go.
Nobody repeats as champion around here.
First time I've ever said it in my life, but I'm going to start my lineup with Sergio. And then I'm going to go with my man Matt Wolf next.
Okay.
I'm going to have to dip down now. I'm going to go Mark Hubbard.
I'm
going to go Hubbard. I'm going to go I'm going to play Rogers as well.
You're just copying off of both of our lineups now, aren't you? You can't be unique on your own. You have to think of what we do first.
Listen, Rogers, no. And then I'm going to go with let's see here. What do I want to do here? I'm going to go Gim.
I like it.
And then I'm going to dip down to
that's 78 left. Or 77 left, sorry.
77 left. I'm going to go with I'm going to go Stewart.
I like that.
Stewart Sink?
No, Stewart. Brian Stewart.
Brian Stewart, yeah. Sorry, I'm like, Stewart Sink's 8,700.
I wish I could fit Stewart Sink in there too. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. All right, so Sergio Garcia, Matt Wolf, Hubbard. I ain't gonna lie, Jason. I like Hunter's lineup better than your lineup, and I like my lineup better than your lineup.
That's what you say. That's what you say every time.
I think you're finishing in 3rd place this week. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Hey, we'll find out on Sunday.
We will find out on Sunday. And let me tell you, if I'm winning, there's going to be a tweet about it because I will always promote when I'm winning.
Hey,
you did it last week. You promoted on Saturday.
I am not afraid. I am not afraid to promote when I lose.
Yep,
when I lose, I put it out there. Hey, this past week, I had 8 lineups. I normally do 20 to 22 lineups. I only did 8 lineups for the Open. I cashed in 0 lineups. It's the first time that's ever happened. I put one random lineup together for the Barbasol, and I had a min cash. How? I don't know. I did no research. I just built it off of a pure whim, and I cashed that. But I went 0 for 8 on the Open last week, just so you know. You got to admit your losses just as much as you got to brag about your wins.
Yeah, rough week for me as well. Had no Morikawa, so.
Yeah, had no Morikawa. I had Spieth in 7 of 8 lineups, and I still didn't cash in any of them. All right, so real quick, got to ask you guys if you got any bets made. I've got 6 bets made so far this week. I'm not sure if you do much betting there, Hunter, but do you have any bets on outright winners or top 20s or anything like that?
Yeah, so it's actually illegal in my state to bet, but I live about 20 miles away from the border where I can go. So if I ever feel good about something, I'll definitely do it. I did come prepared a little bit though. I think that 30 to 40 to 50 range is kind of that money spot. Those are guys that are at least decent numbers to contend, but they're not like long shots that you'll rarely hit unless you obviously have a good number on someone. So. That's just my personal philosophy, I guess. So, I saw a good number on Wolf. I think he was at 40 to 1. I think that'd be a solid play. Sergio, I think I saw 35 to 1. So, another decent outright. Again, I'm not an expert on any of these outright stuff, but do you guys have any solid matchups or even top 20, top 30s that you'd like to give to people?
Jason, I know you got a couple top 20 bets, but I really didn't like the top 20 board this week when I looked at it.
No, the top 20 board was rough this week. I have top 20s on Tringali, Sergio, Wolf, Sink, and Lanto this week. Not great numbers for any of them, to be honest with you. But yeah, I feel pretty confident about those guys. And then I have outrights on Wolf at 30 to 1, Lanto at 60 to 1, Sink at 65 to 1, and Shank at 100 to 1. Obviously, I don't feel super confident in any of those, but I don't know. I feel like a weird guy.
If one of them has a good first round, and they offer you a cash out of 10 to 1 on your money, that's what I'm looking at. Because I have 4 outright bets, all 75 to 1 or higher. This is just a week like I normally have 10, 12, 20 bets placed before an event happens. I have 6 bets placed, and I probably won't make any more. I got 2 first-round leader bets on KH Lee and Kaderi, like I said earlier in the show. And I got outright bets on 75 to 1 on Johnny Vegas and Lanto Griffin at 75 to 1. And then I got Dahmen and Merritt 80 to 1 for Dahmen and Merritt at 85 to 1. Because, again, this is the kind of week where a long shot might win. And, again, if one of these guys are in the top 5, top 10 after Friday or Thursday or Friday, I'm going to hedge my bet. I'm going to cash out and just take what money is offered. Because I think this is one of those weeks where anything can happen, especially in Birdie Fest. Anything can happen.
Yeah. You never know. You could have someone leading the way in the 3rd round, and then James Hahn will come out and shoot a 60. And you'll be nervous about it. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. So before we wrap this up, I know we're past the hour mark. Sometimes we go a little shorter than an hour. I teased at the beginning of the show. We're talking about the run that Collin Morikawa could potentially go on. He's got 2 majors already in less than a year. He's 24, about to be 25 years old. But on the flip side of the equation, there's a whole bunch of golfers that every single week we say they're going to win a major. Xander Schauffele is going to win a major. We got to keep betting him. He's going to win. Victor Hovland, he's going to win a major. We got to keep betting him. There's like a good 5-10 guys on this list in that younger crowd. Daniel Berger, going to win a major. We're just going to keep betting him till he wins that major. Is there a guy that you think maybe at this point then that just might not win a major? Someone like Xander has been so close so many times. Maybe he's not going to win one, though, because there's a lot of great golfers and Hall of Fame golfers that don't win a major. You see somebody like Collin Morikawa stepping up, and Jon Rahm's going to win multiple more majors, and Dustin Johnson will probably win a few. There's only 4 majors a year. In the next 5 years, that's 20 events. There's only so many major events to be won. Are there any of these guys that you have to start to think about that might just be only top 10 major bets and might not be bets to place or players to bet to win events anymore in the major 4 events?
That's a really interesting question.
I know it's kind of something that you have to think about a little bit, but it's something that I was thinking about earlier today.
No, it's a really good question. Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, there is a good handful of 5 to 10 guys that are right there. You said if they only did putt, or if only they could, drive off the tee accurate, then they'd be right there to win. I guess maybe not a guy who, I think he's already won one with Justin Thomas. Didn't he win the PGA?
Yes.
Just one time, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
17.
yeah, I bet, if you would ask me in 2017 how many majors is Justin Thomas going to win by 2021, I would have likely said more than one. So
Right.
maybe he kind of fits that group. I know, like I said, he's won, but I would have expected him to win a few more. And I still would bet that he would win one even in the next, 4 events in the next year. But he would, I guess that he was the first person that I thought of when you asked that question.
I see. What made me think of it wasn't even the names I named. It was the Ricky Fowler at his age, and everyone kept waiting for Ricky Fowler to win that major. And now what's Ricky Fowler? He's over 30 now. I'm not saying you can't win a major after 30 years old, but eventually these guys, they just get into that category of Lee Westwood is a guy. He's one of my favorite golfers, has been for 10, 12, 15 years now. I always said he was going to win a major, whether it was an Open or a U.S. Open or a PGA. I always thought there was a stretch he was contending. He was top 5, top 10 in every major. Just never did it. Doesn't mean he's not a great golfer. He's one of the best of all time. He fits that list. But Jason, thoughts on that? Any of those guys you think maybe might fit into that Lee Westwood? Will still be talking about them at 38, 40 years old. Why haven't they won?
I think the first one that comes to mind is Ricky, like you just said. If you'd asked me 3 years ago, like watching him play at the Masters when, I think he was a runner-up 2-3 years ago, I would have said for sure he would win a major one day. I don't think he will, and that makes me sad because I love Ricky Fowler. I think he's been awesome. He's great for the game and everything like that, but I just don't see a time when Ricky's going to win a major. I really don't, especially with this young crop coming up right now. You're going to have to be, guys like Morikawa, like you said, Hovland's probably going to win one. Berger. There's a lot of young talent. It's a lot harder to win, so I don't see him winning one. The question for me is Finau. Like, Finau always seems to be a top 5, top 10 major guy. Does he ever get one? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know if he does. I don't know. There's just, and as the more we talk about it, there's more names just popping into my head. I just don't know. Like I said, there's only 4 majors a year. These guys, they're the toughest courses. Sometimes you get these random things, happen in these events. I don't know. I just think that a guy like Xander, I don't know why Xander keeps coming into my head. I know I keep saying he's going to win one, and Victor Hovland as well. Victor Hovland's a little younger. But Xander's just a name for some reason now. It's been 2-3 years. I just keep saying he's going to win, and he doesn't win. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he might be one of those guys at 38 years old that's still finishing in the top 10 in every major, but isn't winning them.
Yeah, I think you both bring up great points. I think Ricky, like what you said, Phil, is a good option there. And yeah, Tony Finau. Obviously, we have lots of evidence that he's been really close, but he hasn't quite gotten over that hump. But Phil, I think you also brought up a really good point. Majors are hard. Not only do you have to have a lot of things go your way, but you also have to hope that other people aren't playing as well. Xander can play as great as he possibly can, but he's going to have a DJ or a Rom that's just going to, be a little bit better that day. So, I think that is always important to take into consideration. Majors are really hard to win, and they only come around 4 times a year. But, the talent that we're talking about, we would expect, some of these guys to have.
You say they're so hard to win, Hunter. That's why you see certain golfers, not to just bring up the best, but Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Tiger Woods, they won so many of them. That just shows how great they were. Even going down the next level, Phil Mickelson's that won, a half a dozen of them. And the guys that win, 3 or 4 of them, Brooks Koepka or Rory, the same guys seem to win multiple majors because they're that tough. You need to be the premium, top cream of the crop to win a major. And that's why I'm starting to sour at every show, every major. I keep saying Victor Hovland. I keep saying Xander Schauffele. And now with the Xander Schauffele, I'm kind of thinking it might be time to think that it's not a surefire bet every single major to take a stab at them winning it.
Yeah. Especially with the odds that you'll get them at now.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. Anything to add to this show before we wrap this thing up here? This is probably the longest fairway to heaven we've done so far. Hour and 10 minutes. Jason's wife's probably knocking on that office door like, let's go.
My kid wants to talk to me for sure. No, I'm just no, Hunter, thank you for coming on, man. Great insight for sure. Big fan of your work and everything like that, and definitely a good follow on Twitter.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Hunter,
Thanks for
anything
having me.
to plug outside your Twitter account at Huntman10? Anything to plug? Any other shows you're appearing on or anything else?
This is the one. I've kind of just been bouncing back and forth. Like you said, I was on Rob's a couple weeks ago, and I really appreciated to you guys having me on. I really just love talking, golf. And that's the main thing. So
Hey, you're welcome back on the show anytime you want.
Yep.
I appreciate that a lot. I love talking it with you guys. So, like I said, I post a player pool every single week. Just kind of post my thoughts on Twitter, but otherwise, I just love bouncing around the show. So, thanks again for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on. So again, Hunter at Huntman10 on Twitter. Make sure you follow him, everybody. I'm Phil Stiefel at Beard and Knowledge. You got Jason Sullivan at JSully2121. This is Fairway to Heaven. We do this every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. But programming note, we're not sure what's going to happen next week. There is no event next week. We got the Olympics. I'm sure there's a little betting to go on with the Olympics, but I'm sure there's no DraftKings lineups for the Olympics. I don't even know. I've never done DraftKings golf with the Olympics around, so we're kind of playing it by ear. At the very least, we'll do some kind of a quick video breaking down the Olympics if there's any bets on who to win the gold medal or whatnot next week. But this Fairway to Heaven every Tuesday night, 9 p.m., right here on DSM Media at DSM_media. Make sure you're tapped in. Again, for Hunter, Jason, I'm Phil Stiefel. Let's win some money this week, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
You bet.
Y'all have a great night. Stay tuned tomorrow night on DSM Media. I got my regular show trending for 4 quarters. I got Jimmy Smith from On the Road to Victory coming on. We're talking Philadelphia Eagles and all their camp battles. Make sure you check it out.